all the Juggalos in recovery.
Hello, people with Juggalos in Recovery. My name is Frank. I'll be running the meeting tonight. Juggalos in Recovery is about the community in recovery. There's no judging here. Everyone is unique, and so is their recovery. Our topic tonight is going to be rolled off of the gym list. The gym list is the Juggalo Improvement meeting list, as you can see here, right here. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Cool. Please feel free to talk about your experience. This meeting is about an hour long. For any newcomers, we appreciate the strength and humility you bring to the meeting, and we are happy you are here. Now let's roll some dice.
6.
I didn't bring my physical dice today. Damn. So we're just gonna roll like this. 16 and 3. So 3 would be life. And 16 is life. Following through with commitments. Now, if we want to, let's do that. Following through with commitments, and then we're going to add step 5, which is we opened up to the carnival ourselves and other Juggalos, the bad and good things we did during our lives. So, following through with our commitments. And one of the biggest steps to follow through with opening up to someone else. As an when I was in active addiction, and even when I first got sober, I had a very hard time with time management. It created, what's the right word I'm looking for? It created a part of me who would promise something, whether to meet up with someone or to get something done, or making open-ended promises, and I would not end up following through with them, and my reputation tended to take a lot of hits because of it. I was not a reliable person. Then the more time I started learning about myself and healing myself, I became more reliable. And quite a few different things happened to me when I became more reliable. One, I stopped expecting something in return from others. 2, I was able to say no, and not like, no, I'm just not going to do it, but no because of a specific reason. I was able to teach myself how not to feel guilty by saying no, because I always felt guilty by saying no, I'm not going to help someone. So I was able to learn how to say no. So say someone asked me to help them move, which happens a lot. I would say, no, I've got to work that day, or I'm taking time for myself, or there's some, like, It doesn't have to be a good reason to them, but as long as it's a good reason for you, something that means a lot to you, that whether it's self-care or something that you've been looking forward to, it doesn't matter. It's still okay to say no, and that's one of the ways I've learned to say no. But opening up to another human being, um, that was for the first time I went through the steps. It was very stressful and anxiety ridden. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and then afterwards, I had almost a surge of relief come over me because I realized it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Even the horrible things that I was talking to this person about, it was something that just needed to happen for me to be able to heal. And over the years, I've realized the more I talk to other people about what's going on in my life, the more I'm able to process things in a healthy way, to push, not to push. I don't know, I lost my train of thought. So the topic tonight is merging following through with commitments and opening up to the carnival ourselves and another juggalo of the good and bad things we did during our lives. However, you can merge them together in your brain, or if you have something else you want to talk about, um, the floor is open. Looks like D is busy and
Yo,
Joseph.
yo, 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 yo.
Hi, D.
I've been busy the whole time. I've just been listening to you and Stacy, and then the meeting. I'm about to remake a bed at work. But this is going to be my meeting topic for Friday, too. So
Oh,
interesting how
shit.
that works out since I'm going on to step 5 with my step study.
There you go.
Um, and you know what? You know what? I've ran into the similar issues throughout my sobriety, right? Like because you want to help somebody, you want to do something, so you want to automatically say yes to everything when that's not always the case. And like I'm good at following through with commitments these days, but I'm not good with timelines. You know what I mean? Like I will help you, but don't like try to make I don't like to have a time limit. Like if I'm willing to take you through steps, we're both adults, we got kids, we got lives, we got whatever stuff happens, and maybe it isn't going to follow through exactly how you're thinking, but it's not like that I'm not committed to helping like a sponsee or somebody, but you know, life happens, right? So I try not to set like timestamps on my commitments to where I feel that pressure, that rushness, that chaos of things. You know what I mean? Like just this past weekend, I'm finishing getting wedding decorations done. You know what I mean? The wedding's 2 weeks away, right? And that's just for the commitment parts. But when it comes to my recovery, like if I say I'm going to be there at home group, or if I say I'm going to take the spot, I do that position of that spot when it comes to my recovery. But when it comes to like my more personal stuff, like I don't like to have a time limit. Just like this is a project that I'm working on and pace myself through it. You know what I mean? And,
Mm-hmm.
and my first sponsor. I found like somebody that I could relate to that I didn't know for shit, and through all my faith and trust in him to spill my guts and all my darkest shit, you know, to relieve me of those resentments and all those negative thoughts in my head, right? That's what I needed to be able to find peace and happiness, right? And I was even talking to some friends this past weekend because I had been on edge for the last couple of weeks just from the stress of trying to plan and get stuff together for the wedding, right? And as soon as I start talking about that, I have friends that are volunteering to come help me get stuff ready to put together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like even they heard through the grapevine, yeah, we heard you've been on edge lately. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of overwhelmed here. You know, I work full time. I got a wedding I'm planning. I got all this recovery stuff I'm doing, and it's a lot to put on a plate. You know what I mean? And all I had to do was ask for help, and people are there. But if I don't ask for help or talk to somebody about what's going on, I'm not going to receive that help. And this past weekend was like a blur. I was so busy doing all these things, but luckily I had people there to help me, you know? And that's just a beautiful part of like having a community and network of people that actually care about you. Like when you're struggling or you need help overcoming certain uh obstacles or stuff you have to get done or you need to get done, like people come help just to help. Like when I was out there ripping and running using, if I told somebody I'm struggling here, it has me on edge, I need, you know, I got all this stuff to do, they wouldn't be like, hey, let me come help you
Mm-hmm.
do X, Y, and Z. You know, they only wanted me for the drugs or the money or the good time or whatever, you know, that's all it was. So I think the fifth step and commitments is a big part of recovery. And like, you're never going to change from your past until you talk to somebody to let go of it. If you're hanging on tight to all those past things and past feelings, those past resentments, you're not going to grow as a person from those things. So it's important to find a network of people you can relate to with experiences in your life and feelings in your life. So you have those people that you know went through those similar things. Like a lot of my friends are convicts, just put it that way, in my network. They know the prison struggle, the getting out, the facing life and trying to make something of yourself. You know, and a lot of my other friends, they're parents and dads and stuff, you know, and they know the family struggle. So um I just try to surround myself with those people that are doing good so they push me forward. And I know if they're doing good and doing their thing, like when I'm struggling and I talk to them, they'll help push me forward through that same stuff. So
Yeah, that brings up a very good point. Um, when it comes to, there's a couple different things I want to touch on that made what D said brought up. So, first thing, the commitments. One thing, looking back, I realized that the more I became reliable, the more I wanted to surround myself with similar people, the more I wanted to surround myself with other reliable people. And those non-reliable people, if what I told them or the advice I gave them, if they were willing to listen, did not help them or they didn't try to make progress, then eventually they would just end up falling off out of my life just because they couldn't keep up, which to me is pretty cool that by my self improvement, I surrounded myself with other people who were on the same path as me, at least in some sort of way. And then another thing, talking about step five and talking about things, um, over the years of my sobriety, I have some things I have kept really deep and really buried them. And I was afraid to death of talking about them because of how people would judge me or how I would judge myself or whatever the case is. And it was almost instantly when I talked about them and told another human being, those things I was keeping in that deep, dark, secret dungeon of mine, I felt the guilt go away. I was causing my own. I can hear you.
Oh,
I was causing my own guilt. I was causing my own anxiety, all because I was holding myself to the standard I was living at that. So let me try to simplify this. Imagine I have a deep secret that's wouldn't put me in legal trouble, but morality is an issue. How good of a person I am is an issue. And I've been holding that secret for these last 9 and however many years months I've been sober. The more I've held it in, the more I think about it, the more I analyze it, the more I go down that rabbit hole of what are other people going to think? How am I going to come back from this? All of this extra stuff that just comes into over analyzing something. What that also does is I'm holding my past self at the standard that I'm living at now. How fair is that to me? I'm not being fair to myself. Yeah, I might have done something fucked up in the past, but just because I'm doing something fucked up, I did something fucked up in the past, doesn't mean that I deserve to put myself down now because of it. So it's one of those things like it's very, very important to talk about the things that you've done or that hurt you mentally and emotionally and get them out there because then you start realizing that you're not that person anymore and you can move on with your life. Go ahead, D.
I just noticed my last share. I had the camera turned the other way. Um, but I mean, yeah, that's the biggest part of it because the only way you overcome those feelings, like, and is to talk to somebody about it, to let go, right? And when the crazy thing, like you were saying though, right? When I talk to these other people about the things I did, 9 times out of 10, they did similar things, and we're not that person, but it lets us know we're human. Even
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much we grow and how much change, or how much somebody looks up to us, or how many things we do positive life, we're still human and still have those defects like we talk about all the time that pop up because we're human. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be 110% on everything we do. Life happens. And when life happens, sometimes we're just trying to get through whatever's happening and we're not perfect, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that we give up on trying to keep that standard we were doing. Just sometimes we fall short, and that's fine too. Like, you surround yourself with those people, those goals, and those motivations, and you see them driving forward. That makes you want to drive forward. It doesn't mean that they won't fall short, or I won't fall short, or whoever. And that's just human nature. And the most we can be is compassionate to ourselves and to others when people fall short, and be like, look, no worries, bro. Let's reschedule. Let's do whatever. Let's keep this train moving,
Mm-hmm.
because life is going to come at you. And sometimes it comes at you hard and you have no control over that, but you have control over how you feel, how you act, and what you do to move forward. You know?
And that's something else too with a lot of people, not just addicts. We don't know how to be compassionate to ourselves. That is a very, very tough thing, especially with social media and
We are
how
our own worst critics.
it's everyone is. It's unreal um how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people just on social media you look and you'll see these posts of how they're just tearing themselves apart and they have no faith in themselves. It's just unreal the hatred we have towards ourselves instead of hating the things or the people or the situations that taught us to not love ourselves.
I mean, that's a good point. What I try to do now is I look in retrospect, how far have I climbed from the time I got sober, right? And
Mhm.
that in itself is astounding. You know what I mean? Think about your 9 years. Where were you at 9 years ago and what you're doing today? You know, most people don't get that far in a lifetime of growth and
Mhm.
change because a lot of normal people don't grow and change like we do. Because the program we were working forces us to grow or change or to go back out to the misery, right? So,
Mhm.
like, I look back, I'm not even 4 years sober. And from being homeless, couch surfing, in jail, no license, nothing, completely miserable, angry at the world, completely hollow inside, not being able to die because I'm not even good at fucking taking my own life trying to OD. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
sitting there completely a broken human to who I am today and the peace I have within myself most of the time, not saying all the time, and the things I've accomplished in that short period of time. I can't wait to look forward to the next 10, 12, 15 years of my life. Because if this is how far it's now, it's not going to stop growing if I keep putting in the effort. And that's why I was saying, like, I don't like to put time limits on things. I like to set my goals and take the steps to reach there. Because when I put time limits and expectations on certain things, like I'm making this commitment to myself for this goal, right? And if I
Mhm.
don't live up to whatever expectation I had to achieve this goal or time limit I had, all I do is catch a resentment and I'm my own worst critic and I beat up myself. And I don't want to feel like a failure or tell somebody I'm a failure or I didn't do good at this. You know what I mean? Which kind of goes back to like having that networking talk to like, I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed about this. I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And you'll be surprised who's in your corner ready to help you when you're
Yeah.
willing to swallow your pride and talk to somebody about what's going on. People come through because y'all are on the same wavelength trying to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah. It's mm, at the very beginning of my sobriety. Oh, yeah, I'd say at the very beginning of my sobriety, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment, paying $300 a month just so I can save enough money to pay off my DUI fine, which took me the whole 2 years to save up for because I was living from paycheck to paycheck. So I would literally, I still remember the first time I had money left over from the previous week's paycheck to the payday. I had $1 left in my wallet from my previous paycheck, and I felt so proud of myself because not only was I saving money, but I also had money left over that I didn't spend. That was the first time in my life that I ever had money from a previous paycheck. Now I don't even worry about it. But to think of that small accomplishment, to me, it was one of the biggest steps in my life because I sucked at managing money. I'm not the greatest at it now either, but I still am 10 times better than what I used to be. And looking back over everything that I've accomplished over the last 9 years, it's almost it's kind of ridiculous when I do that because sometimes I don't even think I'm looking back at the same person, like the same human being. Like, yeah, I know physically I was, I'm me, but my personality's changed, my thoughts have changed, my actions have changed. I mean, I still got defects. I'm not perfect, but there's very, very little resemblance of the old me compared to who I am now. It's uh, it's quite amazing to me that the progress that we can make when you just focus on what your next step is and focus on making improvements to yourself and to your life, getting rid of the toxicity in your around you. It's no matter what situation you're in, you always have some form of control. So you find a way to get through those tough times, to find those peace and serene times. Josie, you've been quiet this meeting. You got anything to say?
I don't know. My head hurts and I'm wicked distracted today. I was sitting outside and gonna stay outside, but then I saw like 4 squirrels and a cat, and it was way too distracting. And I didn't want to become friends with wild animals today at all.
All right.
Yeah.
But you doing okay?
As okay as I can, I guess.
Good. As long as you're doing as good as you can today, that's all that matters.
Just easily distracted today by
Yeah,
everything in
yeah,
life.
yeah, that happens to all of us, believe it or not.
Josie, so
I,
sorry I didn't message you back this weekend. I was nonstop until this moment, and I'm still nonstop. It's been insane.
You're good. I had some homies randomly call me and wake me up because I tried to sleep all day, and I got pissed off at them because I had a headache, and I was like, "No, I want to sleep in. I don't want to wake up early. That's why I didn't message you that I'm up." So
Eh,
it is all good.
life got a little lifey this weekend, but I got a lot accomplished that needed to get accomplished. Ay. So
well,
Frank, on the topic, right? The other
mm-hmm,
part I like step 5, right? Once we like turn to this way of life, right? That's like a commitment to ourselves, right? In the order
correct.
to heal and grow, we share with other people, right? And at the end of it, our service work is to help other people, right? So
Mm-hmm,
when we go through this growth process and letting go of these resentments and this guilt and this shame, right? Like that is for us to be able to use those experiences without cropping up all those emotions to help somebody else who's just coming in to show them the way, right? Because if you can talk about these things freely without going into that hamster wheel that you normally get, right? That thought process, right?
right.
And relate to the newcomer and show them like if I can overcome these things and talk about it and deal with it, like you can too, and I'm here to help you. That's like kind of the whole point of it, I feel, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a very, very good way to put it. Step 5 directly correlates with the action step of making a personal commitment to yourself for self-improvement and healing. I think the biggest thing is the healing aspect of step 5.
Yeah,
Step 5
yeah,
can step 5 can
that
teach you a lot. It not only shows you that you can heal and shows you that some people can actually be trusted, but it also teaches you how to start building meaningful relationships with other people.
it makes you look at all those negatives and positives,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps you learn to grow from all the negatives and how to overcome those things that were holding you back in life and ruining relationships with people. And the other thing that goes in with step 5 is admitting our fuck ups to people, right? When they present
Mm-hmm.
themselves, right? That's the tough part. Like
Oh
finding
yeah.
the person to talk about what I know I did and that they probably did similar things is pretty easy, especially if you're one of the people that like to vent, right? It's a giant venting session, right? And then after you
Mm-hmm.
vented, now it's like, okay, all these people you felt did you wrong, or that whatever happened, right? Now you got to go to these people when you see them, or they pop up and go, sorry, I was such a fucked up, I did a bunch of fuck up shit, like, can you forgive me, anything I can do right? And 9 times out of 10 they just want you to do good like you've been doing, but that's not
Mm-hmm.
always the case. And that's the hard thing to do, is look somebody in the eye or talk to somebody that you did wrong and apologize for your shit and hope like it doesn't go bad, right? Because they're entitled to feel however they want to feel, right? It's only,
Right.
I'm only doing this because it's the right thing to do, right? And for me, like most of my sobriety, I just kind of did like a living amends. You know, if I keep walking, talking, doing the right things, and living a program like I'm living, like that's the most I can do, right? Because I feel like changed behaviors and changed actions speak louder than any apology I'm going to give to you, right?
Yeah, I
So
believe that as well.
the longer I stayed sober, living the program, the more people started to pop up that probably have been watching me through social media or through the grapevines. And once they started popping up, now it's time to correct those things, you know?
Yep.
And
See, that's one of the things that I did too, is when I first got sober, I made whatever amends to people that were directly in my circle right away. And then I allowed the universe to bring the other people who needed and deserved a physical, verbal amends into my life whenever the time was right. And whenever they showed up, I didn't hesitate to make my amends to them because I had already mentally forgiven myself. And that was one of the key things I had to learn early on in sobriety, is to forgive myself. Hmm. This topic's very, very interesting.
I feel like we're two peas in the pod on a lot of things, Frank. We have a lot of
I know.
similarities, you know, and I'll tell you when I made my list in the other fellowship, I had myself written in big capital letters with exclamation points like 10 times, right? Because I had already came to the terms that I was the creator of my own making. I did everything, and I am the absolute worst human being. I hate myself, etc., you know? And learning to
Mm-hmm.
forgive myself and know that I'm not going to be judged for all my past mistakes, but who I am today and what I've overcome and what I've done to make myself not that person was a crucial part for me. You know, yeah, I might have been that person. I was that person at one point in time, but that's not who I'm going to be. That's not who I want to be. And I'm going to continue to grow and change to be better. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess that's because of my stubborn mentality. It's like, you know what? Everybody thought I was probably going to be dead or in prison the rest of my life. I'll show you that I can be more than anyone ever thought I was going to be. And I can show myself that, you know, and I think that was a big motivator in itself.
Yeah, see, I do stuff like that too, like how the haters will always talk crap about where you're going and how you're doing something, and that you could be doing this or you're doing that, or always trying to pull you down to their level. One thing I've done quite regularly is I've used that as a motivator to prove people wrong. Not only to prove people wrong, but to prove that I can accomplish what other people don't think I can. And it's not that I'm petty or I'm not doing for a petty reason or a vengeful reason or out of spite. I'm doing it because it makes me build character. And I'm not always going to accomplish those things first right off the bat. Just with Juggalos in recovery, I have failed on so many different things, whether it was promoting something or starting something or whatever the case was. Like, it's been a learning curve every step of the way. But the reality of it is, I don't stop. I don't quit. I just learn from my mistakes and I keep moving forward. And then I surround myself with other people, such as you, D, like people who are on the similar path or parallel path that I'm on, and who have a very similar mentality to me. And I surround myself with people like that so we can boost each other. And it's like getting a cheat code to a video game. Like, you're literally boosting your performance by surrounding yourself with people who perform just as good, if not better than you. And it's amazing thing in my life. Hi Tigger, I see you, even though you can't talk to me. That's the queen of the house, so I had to say hi to her.
So I try to keep in mind, like, I don't beat myself up over failures or things I haven't accomplished yet, right? I'm not the sum of that. I'm the sum of what I've done. And what I've done is always going to outweigh my past life. And I also like to keep in mind, if something doesn't happen on how I want or when I want, right? Maybe it was me forcing my will and it wasn't that time, right? We say like, oh, the carnival provides, right? So when it's meant to happen, that's when it's going to happen. I could try to force something to happen all day and reach for something and constantly fall. That just means I wasn't mentally ready for it, spiritually ready for it, or it wasn't ready to be presented or happen to the people I'm trying to present it or make it happen to, right? So like you said, I failed plenty of times in whatever aspect. Like you didn't fail, it just wasn't time yet, you know?
You
And
had
I'm a
something
firm
else to
believer
learn.
that, yeah, I'm a firm believer, my higher power, the carnival god, whoever you want to call it to you, whatever your Buddha, Allah, whatever, doesn't matter, right? Is never going to put something on my plate I can't handle and I'm not ready for, right?
Hmm.
So that means those doors open when they're supposed to open.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. And see
But
that
you
that's
never
one of
stop reaching for the stars.
that's right. You always find a way to keep pushing forward, to keep improving yourself, your life, and the people around you. Because the more you put out in the world, the more you'll receive from it. So
Law of
my situ
attraction.
exactly. So one of the things I'm doing right now is I know that I have the ability currently that to express myself somewhat decently to other human beings, to other people, to get my point across. But it's always one of those things that I felt I needed to improve on, especially now being the face of Juggalos in recovery and putting out a new book and, just constantly doing stuff. Um, Another thing that weirdly has an impact on this is being a dungeon master in D&D. Like I have to be able to tell stories and explain things and use my imagination on the fly. And so one of the things I'm doing now is on top of I'm not only doing all the stuff for the meeting videos while I'm over here, but I'm writing the book, I'm writing a D&D campaign, I'm participating in a D&D campaign, and I'm doing a course to improve an aspect of my life that not that I'm failing at, but I know I can improve on. So my failures at this point is not that I'm bad at anything anymore. It's the fact that I have found things that I want to improve on. So it's not, I don't count them as failures anymore. I count them as uh, situations to learn
Progress.
from. Exactly. Situations to learn from to better myself. I don't fail. I just did something wrong and I need to find the proper way to handle those situations. So, like, say I go to work on my new truck and I mess something up, or like I put in the subwoofer in my truck and I actually had a situation where the truck would just randomly shut off. It just stopped working. It's because I tried to do something uh, that I learned years ago, but it doesn't work on this new truck. So I had to find a different way to handle that and make my truck, one, stop shutting off, and two, make the subwoofer work. And I figured it out eventually. It just took me some time to learn the process. And that's how everything in my life's been going.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a firm believer like you don't gain wisdom or learn without making mistakes. That's the human
Hmm.
process, right? And for a lot of people, they don't see their mistakes or their ways as anything wrong, right? And I always say this, like in recovery, we have a chance to look at all these flaws and these mistakes and use them as our assets and our building blocks to become the best versions of ourselves that we could possibly be, right? And
Hmm.
that's kind of the beauty of any 12-step process you work, right? And from doing that, you gain a group of like-minded people around you that are on that same link. And we are basically like the hand extended out to those people when they're ready to come on this journey and see how beautiful life can be without your past holding you back, or your addictions holding you back, or your mental health holding you back, depending on the severity. I mean, there is mental health that is stuff that you can't overcome. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it, if you learn healthy ways of dealing and you maybe seek professional help, or you have a community to help you out, you can overcome and learn to cope and deal with these things in a healthy manner that you might not have been done before. Like, I know I drank and drug the way I did because part of it was my mental health. I know I inflicted pain on myself because of my mental health, and was most abusive to myself mentally and physically because of mental health things, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
when I get sober and look at the root problems and learn different ways to deal with things, um, I'm able to grow and change and not do all those things I did before. And a lot of that process goes right back to step 5 and telling somebody about this. And they can relate and dealt with similar things. And you go, well, hey, what did you do? What steps did you take to overcome X, Y, and Z? Right. And if you
Mm-hmm.
start taking some suggestions, advice, and find what works for you, right, you can grow and change and overcome those things that were holding you back already.
Yeah. See, one of the things I dealt with a lot, I feel a lot of people deal with, is especially in active addiction, I had the mentality that any pain that I felt, I deserved. And a lot of the
Same,
pain that I felt, I caused.
same,
And yeah, and see, I figured that's was kind of one of the things that you were talking about, and that was it's not that that is one mental health, but it also runs into emotional health too, because I mean that emotional and mental health usually I'd say probably about 75% of the time tie together. And a lot of the times I see my mental health dwindling or my emotional health dwindling or becoming the weaker aspect of me. I tend to fall back into those old ways of, oh, well, I'm causing this, and if I'm causing it, then I deserve it. And I have to basically slap myself and be like, hey, you're not the same person you were before. You don't deserve this. You don't need this pain. What is causing it? But I have to be my own therapist sometimes and be like, why do you think you deserve this pain? And I sit there and I wonder, oh well, it's because I'm being lazy or I'm not doing good enough at this one thing, so I deserve to be punished for it and all this stuff. And I'm doing a lot of self-punishment because I'm holding myself to a standard I can't even achieve. So it's one of those things like even over 9 years sober, I'm still sitting over here punishing myself because I've built this expectation of myself to achieve something that's not achievable with the knowledge, the wisdom, the motivation, and the time that I have available. And I hold myself to that standard quite often, and I end up hurting myself. What are you gonna say, D?
Okay, so let me blow your mind and go down a wormhole, right? Emotional and mental health, right? What does everything in life stem from? Like your emotions. There's two primary emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them being fear, right?
Yep.
Fear of fear of accomplishing, fear of failure, fear of relationships, fear of actually being loved and accepted, fear of not being loved and accepted, right? Most of this stems the mental and emotional health, right? It stems off
Mm-hmm.
of it. And my sponsor wrote a book about it. It's called Fear, Face Everything and Rise, right? So we have to face all these irrational fears, or even some of them rational, and these irrational emotions that stem from it: depression, anger, resentment, jealousy, bitterness, all these things that stem from fear, right? And that's usually the driver of mental health and emotional health, right? Like, I was my own worst critic, and it was fear of being accepted, not being accepted, fear of never amounting to anything, fear of always being an addict and alcoholic and never doing anything with my life, fear of being the homeless guy 60 years old on the side of the road, fear of actually winning. And then there's a standard set on me that I won't live up to all the time, right? Those are all fears present, right? But when I face those fears and accept that I'm a human and I have flaws and I'm never going to be perfect, those fears will tend to vanish. But I can't look those fears in the eyes if I'm on alcohol and drugs, right? I'm running from those fears and inevitably becoming all the things I'm afraid of.
Yeah. Fear plays a huge role. Fear, I think one of the biggest fears that I've dealt with that doesn't have an effect on me anymore, or at least holds very little space in my brain for, is the fear of the unknown. That was a huge reason why I didn't build relationships. I didn't hold relationships. I became a recluse. I found a safe spot and I went there and I stayed there because I was afraid of everything and anything. And then I realized that being afraid of things that I don't know, just physically saying it out loud just sounds stupid to me now, because why are you afraid of something that could possibly improve your life? I mean, look at the woman who's holding a knife to the camera.
You know why? Because when you start to face these fears, it ties right back into the topic. Then comes
Mm-hmm.
commitments and responsibilities and
Yep.
life and growth. But the crazy thing is, you find this spirituality, this higher power, whoever you call it, the carnival, anybody watching, whatever you believe in, right? That miraculously can change your life when you're seeking it, right? And with
Mm-hmm.
that comes a life of abundance and things you are not ready for. And you're going to tie into another thing. You're going to fail. And you learn from those failures and you grow and become better. And it's all part of the
Mm-hmm.
fucking process. And it's painful and it's beautiful. And all types of emotions happen in that process, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the majority of the bad things are so minute in the scheme of the bigger picture when you look back, that the good and the abundance and the things and experiences you have along the way outweigh those bad things where you don't even really pay attention to it, or it doesn't even matter when you're looking in retrospect, when you're looking
Yep.
in hindsight. None of it matters, because without those failures and defeats, you wouldn't be who you are. You wouldn't have the character and you wouldn't be as successful or looked up to or anything without them.
Yeah. And see, one of the things that really helped me get over the fear of the unknown is the realization and acceptance that I didn't need to be the director. I didn't need to be the one in control of everything all the time. At first, letting go of that control was hard as hell because I felt safer when I had control over the situation.
So much better when you do that.
It really is. And then I started letting go of little things every once in a while just to allow myself to get used to it. And then I started doing that so much that the bigger things started going and going. And at one point, I don't know, even remember, I don't think I even remember the exact moment, but I remember one day just sitting there reflecting, and I'm like, I don't have any control over this, like all these situations in my life. And I remember thinking that I feel like I should have all this fear and anxiety towards these subjects and situations, but I have zero. I literally give no fucks about these situations, or these anything, because I don't need to. They're out of my control. I don't control them. I don't control the outcome. I don't control what they do to me or how they treat me. All I have control over is what I do and how I react. That's it. That's the only thing in life I have control over. What I do and how I react to situations. Once I had that, it was so easy to let go of that fear of everything. Like, it's unbelievable. I sit back and I watch so many people just freeze themselves in fear because they don't understand that they only have their reaction and their actions to worry about. If you just worry about
Mhm.
yourself, that's all that matters. You are the only one who's going to take care of you. I wholeheartedly believe that. I will always put me first before anybody else, because if I don't put me first, no one else is, and then I'm just going to dwindle into nothing.
Yeah, which kind of goes back to what you're saying. Like, it's important to have your own me time, your peace time, and self care,
Hmm.
right? And I was scrolling through Facebook. I seen something about like, the less fucks you have to give, the better you're gonna feel emotionally, um, and spiritually. And I'm like, that's so true, because I don't give a fuck how you think about how I look, what I do. I know I'm living a good life. I know I'm doing the best I can. I know I'm being positive and being an impact. And that's better than I ever imagined I would do 4 years
Hmm.
ago, 5 years ago, when I thought I was going to die in a jail cell, be homeless on the side, be in prison the rest of my life, die, or be homeless on the side of the road. Right. So I've blown my standards and expectations. Right. And the only way I have to go is up. And when I keep the mindset as only I control how I feel and act or whatever, like if I let somebody's actions or things they say have control over me, I'm giving them all the power. Right. When I don't give a fuck
Hmm.
what you have to say or what you think about me, and I know I'm doing the best that I can, you have no power over me. And that's like the best thing in life, is knowing like you're not letting somebody or some situation hold the power over your happiness, over your inner peace.
Hmm.
Right. And it gets as easy as telling somebody, going right back, speaking to somebody, hey, X, Y, and Z is going on, and you'll be surprised who's there to help you overcome those things, right?
Hmm.
Like, how many times you ask for help and your other half or somebody comes through for you on something that you're stuck on or you can't handle or that's overwhelming and stressing you out because you're choosing to hold on to it. But as soon
All
as
the
you
time.
go, God, I can't do this right now, and you tell somebody how you're feeling, how quick it just vanishes,
Hmm.
right? Because I do that
Yep.
shit all the time. Even with my other half, I had to tell her I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, X, Y, and Z needs to get done, and I can't do everything. What happens? People step in, she steps up, and I'm no longer stressing on edge. Everything got handled, and I'm not in control of everything. And it's beautiful that way. And it's a teamwork thing, because life, at the end of the day, all you got is you and your higher power, but you don't get through
Hmm.
on life just by yourself. You need those people around you. Like we were talking earlier, they're going to push you up, push you better, help you out, and make you that better person. Without those people around you, you just stay stuck in self, right? And I think a big part of it is like, when I quit looking at I have to do this, I gotta do this, right? And I look through it a lens of I get an opportunity to do something, right? Changes everything.
Hmm. Let me ask you this, Brian. I don't know why this question's popped in my head. One of the things I've done quite frequently, especially in early sobriety, when I was doing self-reflection, was look back at the times in my life where I could have died if I made a different decision or if I reacted differently. And I use those moments to realize that a lot of those times I didn't have control over the situation, which means I have a reason to be here. Whether I know that reason or not, I don't, doesn't matter. But there's a reason, I have a purpose. I don't need to know the purpose, but I have a purpose to be living right now, because there's many a times in my life where I could have died. I just made one different decision or I was in that one different place. Have you ever done that type of self-reflection before?
Oh man, all the time. That's why I'm so grateful for the life I have. So I mean, I don't know. We've kind of talked about. I think I talked about it. Like I shouldn't never even been part of Juggalos recovery or met you. Like
Mm-hmm.
2010, I was facing a 15-year minimum mandatory sentence. I'm not supposed to be free till 2025. That's what the state wanted. God had other plans. How would I know that I would open plea to a judge with a punishable by life charge and be given 4 years instead of a life sentence or more, or 15 years or whatever? So the fact that we cross paths at all, that's divine. And maybe, I'm removed for those 4 years so I don't die from a drug overdose. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I tried OD and that didn't work. I went to a 2 week long blackout. I've been held at gunpoint. I've been shot at. I'm still alive. Like no matter what situation it is, I'm still alive. That lets me know there's something out there looking over me, whether I know it or not, and that there's a purpose. I'm still here because I have plenty of friends that are in the fucking grave,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you look at all that stuff in hindsight, like you were talking about, like you don't want to know what my purpose is, right? It's the same thing. Once I know God, I am God, right? Once I think I know my purpose, right? I become God. I become the director. I become the one in control of everything, right? I don't want to know what my purpose is, and I don't want to ever fully understand what my higher power is, because once I know my purpose and, and and I understand my higher power, so I think I become God, right? But if I stay unknowing, like I don't know what's going to happen, right? And every time I thought I knew my purpose, God ends up showing me there's another purpose behind it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that it's not over yet and there's more yet to come, right? So the
Yeah.
best thing is to not worry about the future or no, just go, like I was saying earlier, these are my goals, these are my ideas, I'm going to reach for them. And who knows what's going to happen along the way or where the branch off and spawn to. Like, I'm pretty sure when you got into sobriety and you wanted to go to a festival, so you brought recovery into it, you didn't think you'd be writing books or doing all the things you're doing now. It was
I thought I was gonna be
the
laughed
carnival, your
off the
higher
grounds.
power. Yeah, the carnival, it was your higher power making a path, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
100%.
illuminated. You found something here. Pull people from the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
That's your purpose now. What is your purpose going to be later? You don't know yet, but right now this is your purpose, and your purpose will continue to grow and change as
Mm-hmm.
long as you stay. You don't run on self will and think you're God, right? Once you start doing that, the doors quit opening, the growth quits happening, the stuff that is going to happen won't happen on the same timeline.
Mm-hmm. So fun little tidbit about Juggalos in Recovery. Juggalos in Recovery has almost failed quite a few times because I got to that point where I thought I was God. I thought I had full control over everything. And I'm like, shit, why is everything going so bad right now? Like, no one's listening, no one's doing anything, no one's helping. And then all of a sudden, I say, what's the community want? And I reach out to the community and I do what the community wants, and all of a sudden there's just a spike of activity and there's a spike of acceptance. And that was a very hard pill for me to swallow was I don't know what the people want, so I need to ask them. I don't have they're not like me. They might be on a similar road. They might, have dealt with similar things as me, but that doesn't mean I know what they need because what I need might not be what they need. So I have to reach out and get these other people involved. Um, but one of the things I want to share that really, really motivates me to appreciate what I have now. There was a time in my teenage years, right before I joined the military, I was at a bowling alley in my hometown. And me and the girlfriend at the time, my now ex, she stormed off and I followed her. 5 minutes later, I get a call from my best friend at the time asking me where I was because there was a stabbing at the bowling alley. And I didn't realize it then, and it took me probably over a decade to realize it. But after that stabbing and everything that happened in that bowling alley, I could have been part of the mix, and I was on a path at that point in my life to follow in the footsteps of doing things like that and being a part of a community that was not good for humanity. And I look back at that and use that as motivation once in a while to remember that I'm on the right path now, because there's no way I would be alive if I had stayed within that community or just stayed in that bowling alley at that point in time. I don't know what would have happened, but the options and the um the things that could have happened are just infinite, because one decision changes a lot of things. Um, this was a pretty good meeting for a topic I didn't think was going to go this deep. This book keeps challenging my thoughts of topics, and I like
Oh,
it.
speaking of it, did you get my email? Because I noticed my email's been all kinds of messed up.
I did get your email.
Okay.
If
I just wanted to
you
check
would,
because other emails aren't going through because I'm
yes,
a
I
dum
got your
dum.
email. There's one picture in there. It's very hard to read. It's the darker one.
Okay.
So if you could retake that in a lighter area, that would be beneficial.
I will. I just have to mess with my settings
Okay,
because, like I said, I messed everything up somehow and now I'm trying to fix it.
awesome. Yes, but I did get the email.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Do you want to see my work in progress, Frank?
Yes. Holy crap.
Your journey awaits.
That is okay. Amazing.
I'll let you know when I'm done. I might go ahead and get it put on a t-shirt, you know, but
All
that's
right.
like that's our mission, right? What we're talking
Yeah.
about. We go through this process to reach our hand out to another suffering person when they're ready and pull them
Mm-hmm.
out of that, right? To
That's
free
what we
them
do.
from the chains and help them find their missing link,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the whole point, right? Break them from
Yep.
the old chains of self and the world and the destruction when they're ready. Some people are never ready, but eventually most people get miserable enough that change is going to happen. And like our community, like Chris says all the time, is getting older, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you were put in a position and growth comes at that pace when it's going to be more accepted and ready. Like I would have never thought like going to the gathering and telling people, "Oh, I'm sober and X, Y, and Z," and you don't want to see me do that. The most love and respect I've ever felt at any concert that I've been to in sobriety, and I've been to Tech Nine shows and all types of
Mm-hmm.
rock festivals and all that, was the most love and respect for what I'm doing. That is a good
It
feeling in itself. You know what I
it really
mean?
is. It's one of the reasons why I love this community. But with that, it is time to close the meeting. So I know not all of us shared, but it is okay. If you need someone to talk to, just reach out. Except you, Stacy. Don't reach out to me.
Three devices at the same time with the everywhere group. Just tell me to play music everywhere.
All right. But thank you all for showing up. I believe no matter how long the road, if we walk together, we will get there, even though we will face some of the darkest evil ever seen. We will face it as a community and stand fearless in its path. Nothing will stop us. With the help of our family and community, we will overcome the persecution and tribulations that life may cast from time to time. to the ones who still suffer and haven't found the path to serenity and community. We will continue to search for you and help you no matter your ailment. We carry our stories and messages to everyone who will listen. As the sun descends and the night becomes, we arise to take the path. I love you all very much. I will see you next time.
Love you all too. Whoop, whoop.
The
I love
Gym
you
List
more.
I
movie.
love you guys.
I love you
Oh.
more.
I will see you guys later. Bye bye.